All right, Jimmy, Ott and Paul Stone with you on a Thursday with our best bets. Let's get right to it, Paul. Let's get with one of your picks and start with in the Big Ten. And boy, the story of the week. James Franklin launched after a 3-game losing streak. Preseason rankings will get coaches fired, boy. It applies more pressure. There's no doubt about it. But I understand after 12 years, if not this year, then when, with all the players that they had coming back. But Clemson and Penn State, Paul, with the as far as players coming back, where everybody's shuffling around and rosters changing so much more drastically than they used to from year to year, Penn State did now. So how will they react? How will they respond? Is the $1 million question for the interim coach. Sometimes it just continues to slide, and sometimes you can rally the troops. See UCLA. And sometimes when your main goals are out the way, and Clemson showing some little life with back-to-back blowouts. Iowa at home, where they're always tough to play, and they don't give a crap what Penn State problems are. They want to rough them up pretty good. The 3-39.5. Speaking of the Penn State, it wasn't a fluke, a bad bounce here. Northwestern had 10 more first downs than the Penn State on Saturday in that upset victory at Happy Valley. And once again, you lose at home. That adds a little bit more pressure. All the big boys, including Oregon State, but the only one, UAB doesn't really have a whole lot of fans in Birmingham, but all of the early firings in college football after home losses. Paul, you're looking at the Iowa Hawkeyes here.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, Jimmy, but Penn State, the nation's number 2 team in the preseason polls, they've now lost 3 straight games, including the back-to-back losses to UCLA and Northwestern. Both of those losses is more than a 3-touchdown favorite, basically in both, I should say. On top of that, the Nittany Lions now going to be without their third-year veteran starting quarterback Drew Aller, who suffered a lower body injury in the latter stages of this past Saturday's loss at Northwestern. And you mentioned they've also lost their head coach, James Franklin, and certainly his trials and tribulations and shortcomings in the big games have merited a lot of press coverage. But, man, the losses, again, to UCLA and Northwestern, just too much for the administration and the fans to bear, it seems. So here we are at the season's halfway point. Penn State, almost unbelievably, 3-3 on the season and 0-3 and in Big Ten play. They're going to be trotting out a redshirt freshman quarterback, Ethan Grunkemeyer, a guy who's thrown a grand total of 13 passes in 5 game appearances over the past 2 seasons. Got an interim coach, obviously, Terry Smith, played wide receiver for Penn State in the late 1980s, early 1990s. He has been the Nittany Lions secondary coach for the past decade. He'll serve as the interim head coach until the end of this season. Just a whole lot of turmoil, whole lot of questions, whole lot of uncertainty swirling around Penn State's program at the present. They could go into Iowa City on Saturday and flip a switch, but I'm not banking on it. I think Iowa's going to beat them. Iowa, as you mentioned, a victory over Penn State, as long as they're wearing that black jersey and have that white helmet with the single black stripe across the top, it's going to mean something to Iowa. I think the Hawkeyes win by a touchdown or more here. I like Iowa -3 over Penn State.
And look, we've seen bigger boys in Penn State are struggling. That's an interesting conversation where this job ranks. Is it a top 10 job? Is it just outside the top 10? Well, we can look at it. Well, it's been a long time since 1986 when they beat the Miami Hurricanes in the Fiesta Bowl. Log into your Bet Rivers app each week to opt into a 3-pack of NCAA football profit boosts, including a live boost, a same-game parlay boost, and a boost to use however you please. See the app or website for more details. He was talking about, I remember, we've seen Alabama struggle before and stuff. Man, them guys, those opponents, they don't care. They line it up to get their licks in when they can, when the big boys are struggling. Be very interesting. And keep in mind, Aller's backup. Aller finished the game, so he didn't take a snap in the loss against Northwestern. At least he didn't attempt a pass. Let's move on. We'll stay in the Big Ten here and stay in with the purple cats in the Northwestern Wildcats. They're at home and favored over Purdue. 3-47 is the line right now at Bet Rivers. And Northwestern coming off that big win. Purdue, just the opposite, brutal loss at Minnesota. They have the lead in the middle of the third quarter by 7 at Minnesota, and Minnesota scores a touchdown. Touchback the very next play, pick six, and I mean 2 TDs in 7 seconds, and a 7 point lead goes to a 7 point loss. So Purdue outgained them by nearly 200 yards up in this game, and I just think this is an emotional win for the Purple Cats here, and could be kind of going. I'm not sure if Purdue it should not win this game outright. So money line alert, certainly. I'll take the Boilers plus the 3 at Northwestern coming off of that emotional win.
To defeat a Power Four team this season, but those who follow the sport closely, nonetheless, I think we're really positive about the job done by Barry Odom to date there in West Lafayette. They have exceeded expectations. I mean, he's got them competitive. He's not going to be competitive maybe against the Ohio States and the Indianas of the conference, but most teams, Purdue on any given Saturday, can trot a team out there and be competitive. You know, before the season, I think I had them as the second or maybe the second worst Power Four power rated team. I saw one major publication that's very well respected that had Purdue having the worst power rating preseason among Power Four teams. So they have again exceeded expectations. They've been competitive. And you mentioned, you know, kind of the key component or one of the key components of the handicap of this game on Saturday. Northwestern just off a monumental 22-21 victory over Penn State there in Evanston as a 3-touchdown underdog. I mean, there's been a lot of celebration and hoopla and a lot of media coverage and so forth. So a very difficult spot for Northwestern. Additionally, Northwestern only 6-14 and 1 against the spread as a home favorite since 2018. So this is not the role that they have thrived in from a point spread perspective. So I like what you're doing here. Purdue's not going to have many opportunities where they can go into the game saying, hey, this is a conference game we can win, but this is the one probably that they have circled as much as any remaining games, and they're going to be all in. They're going to give it a supreme effort, and Purdue very well might get the victory Saturday in Evanston.
Game was televised 1995. It was the Northwestern win over Penn State. That was the big one on TV that propelled them to their Big Ten championship that went to the Rose Bowl and lost to Keyshawn Johnson and the USC Trojans. Did not cover, by the way. But anyway, that offensive line and Darnell Autry were really, really tough that year. So it's that big of a win and for the Purple Cats. So we'll see. And look, let me tell you too, probably the finest football facility, athletic facility on the lake. I mean, it is awesome, man. So they're redoing their stadium. It's the last year before they get into their new stadium. So they're taking that Big Ten resources and trying to compete, as a lot of other private schools are as well. Players who place a qualifying same-game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL or college football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning standard squares will be awarded of a prize of a $20 bonus bet. See the app or website for more details. Let's continue. It's your turn here, and boy, you got to find a loser before you find a winner here. UConn's 4-2, BC's 1-5, and BC is favored. It's at Chestnut Hill. The line is at 1.5. Boston College 1.5 and 58.5. UConn has won 3 straight. BC has lost 5 in a row, including the last 2 combined scores, 89-17 against Pitt and Clemson. Paul, you're being a big bully here, preying on the weak, going after the Eagles here.
Yeah, I tell you, Oklahoma State, obviously not part of this individual game handicap, Jimmy, but Oklahoma State, I think they're inarguably the worst power-rated Power 4 team at the moment. I don't think there's any question about it, and there's actually a little gap between the Cowboys and the rest of the field. But one could make the argument, and I will, that Boston College has the second worst power rating of any Power 4 team at the present. They won their opener 66-10. Against a FCS team, and not even a good FCS team in Fordham. Since then, they've lost their last 5 games to Power 4 opponents. And you mentioned the losses to Pitt and Clemson by a combined 72 points. Now, difficult scheduling spot, right smack dab in the middle of their ACC schedule. Boston College has to face Independent Connecticut. And while UConn, they might not register too high on BC's radar, the Huskies, they would like nothing more than to knock off their Power Four neighbor only about 85 miles to the northeast. So this game has a lot of meaning for UConn. They played one possession games last year in non-conference games at Duke and Syracuse, a pair of pretty good ACC teams one season ago that went to bowl games. I think they're going to go into Chestnut Hill, get the job done on Saturday. They've got a good quarterback in Joe Fagano. They throw the ball, they score points. I think they're going to beat BC there in Chestnut Hill. I like UConn plus the small points over the Eagles.
UConn in my eyeballs too. I mean, I just think they have a better roster. Mora Jr., we're talking about making coaching changes early. Now, he was out of work at the time, but they made that coaching hire very, very early, and it gave him a jump to put together a competitive roster. For them to get to a bowl game in 2 years is unbelievable. And this is when Angeli was healthy for Syracuse. And I don't know how they didn't beat Syracuse at the Carrier Dome that day. That was a brutal beat if you didn't get the half a point with UConn. So you wonder about BC and where they're headed. There's no doubt about that. But UConn, just my eyeballs tell me that they're just a stronger team. So we will see. And again, you talk about that little brother syndrome, Power Four team in BC, in the ACC, UConn not. They always have a little extra juice when they get these games on. I don't know exactly how many opponents on UConn's schedule or Power Four. Syracuse was one of them, and they definitely played a really good game in that game. Let's move on into the SEC. And as the Karma Police, have they gotten their fair share on Hugh Freeze? I mean, Hugh has had some discretions, and Hugh lied about some indiscretions in his past. Okay, but I mean, the hideout play where they warned the coaches and talked about it. Sankey's phone was ringing off the hook the next day with at least 4 head coaches in the SEC. Wait, what do we talk about? This play, we're not going to run this play. They let it happen, and then the ball is so far. It broke the plane. It was not even close. 17-0. I don't think George is coming back at Jordan Hare Stadium in the second half, down 17-0. So here we go again. Missouri goes to Auburn. Missouri is a favorite, 1.5, 43.5. Missouri is a good team. Drinkowitz is a kind of an unsung hero over in Missouri. In the traditional states, the fan bases or alumni of the SEC, we're still trying to embrace Missouri. Are they really in the SEC? So it's kind of an unnatural fit, to say the least. But they were competitive at home. 6 games for Missouri, all 6 at Como. At home. This is the first time they are going to travel this year in the middle of October. We know about Auburn's brutal beats. One thing about their fan base, they won't give up on their team. That place will be packed. They're very, very loyal. It'll be a tough place to play. Can Jackson Arnold complete one pass downfield? Please. Just put some air under the ball. The post pattern, my God, how did he miss that throw? So take my hand off the stove? Maybe not. Chasing money? Please, Karma Police. Hugh Freeze has paid his dues. Give me Auburn plus the 1.5 at home against Mizzou.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri's bus driver might get lost on the way to the airport. Mark's their first game, as you pointed out, on enemy soil all year long. And we're on the downhill side of October, here second half of October, and they're playing on the road for the first time. Just incredible scheduling dynamics there for the Tigers. Certainly there are rumblings at Auburn about Hugh Freeze's job security and his problems or their problems, have been largely or almost primarily solely on the offensive side of the ball. And Jackson Arnold's not playing well. I mean, there's no question about it. He's holding the ball too long. He's missing throws. But that offensive line, they're equally, in my opinion anyway, at least as culpable, if not more. He has no time to throw. He's lost his confidence. He looks like a deer in the headlights. So, he looks a little bit overwhelmed. I actually did, though, make Auburn minus 2.5 in this game. I think Missouri, this is their first road game. I think they might be a little overrated. And Ahmad Hardy, from Louisiana Monroe, great running back, but he hadn't gone up against any high caliber defenses till last weekend against Alabama, and it kind of came back to earth a little bit. So, I'm not sure about Missouri's offense. Their quarterback, Bo Pribula, he made some errors under duress in that Alabama game. Looked a little bit shaky. Now he has to go on the road again. And this Auburn team, I'm a little bit concerned about their psyche. I mean, when they didn't get the call at the end of the half that would have put them up 17-0, it just seemed to me like they lost all their starts. I hate to say they gave up, but they just didn't fight with the same intensity. It didn't appear on my end. Offensively, again, they're challenged, only 37 points a total of in 3 games. But, like you, for me, it would be Auburn or nothing. I mean, this is their last stand. I mean, if they're going to salvage this season and get it headed back in the right direction, they got to come up with a victory on Saturday there on the Plains.
Because Stockton has he has the first down and he can go down. It was under 2 minutes to go and only one timeout. So he goes down inside the 8-yard line. If they take a knee and Auburn covers, so might be contributing to this line being a little bit more favorable as well. So yes, I'm not taking my hand off the stove with the Auburn Tigers. I love the way they play defense as well. First road game, 7 games in. Unbelievable. All right, Paul, let's get to one of your picks here. And we're looking at Virginia and Washington State. We hit with that Washington State first half. That was a good one. And so because of Washington State being competitive against Ole Miss and Oxford, I think the Virginia Cavaliers are alerted and got a little bit more respect for the Cougars coming into town. Head coach first, psychological angle, the first thing he has to take care of, get his team to respect their opponent. And I think they will have a little extra layer of that. Bet Rivers right now, the Cavaliers are 16.5 and 56. Chandler Morris, boy, he is quite a playmaker. He's good. He's productive. He's instinctful, being a coach's son. Former offensive coordinator, head coach Chad Morris, who was the highest paid assistant in college football at one time when he was offensive coordinator with Clemson. He's twitchy, and especially on third down, man, he is really good. Over 54% third down conversions for the Virginia Cavaliers. Not perfect because 5-1, the only loss, first and 10 at the NC State 12 with 1:08 to go, down 4. He throws a first down interception. First down interceptions are mortal sins for quarterbacks. So he's not perfect, but that's how close they are to being undefeated at this point. Yeah, they got a couple of defensive touchdowns in their win at Louisville. But how about Wazoo, Paul? Field trip, huh? Coming down from the Pacific Northwest. Let's go to Oxford. Are we going to go back? No, we're just going to go to Charlottesville. It's a southern field trip for the Washington State football players. How that's going to affect this whole thing, sleeping in different beds the whole time. You're more interested in the team total, which is 36.5 for the high scoring Virginia Cavaliers.
Yeah, Chandler Morris. I mean, he's a guy who began his collegiate career. This actually is 4th stop, kind of a testament to the new age of college football. But he began his college career way back during the COVID season of 2020 at Oklahoma. Saving his best for last, it appears, in his 6th season of college football in between Oklahoma and Virginia. Morris also made stops at TCU and played last year at North Texas. He has a total of 27 career starts, so he's played a little bit of college football. And like you mentioned, son of a coach, Chad Morris, and Chandler actually played at Highland Park High School there in Dallas, close to the SMU campus. The same school that produced NFL quarterback Matthew Stafford and also Major League pitcher Clayton Kershaw, among others. This Cavalier team off to a 5-1 start, as you mentioned, number 18 in the AP poll. They play fast, so that's part of my handicap towards this team total. 76 plays a game on average, rank high in many other key offensive team statistical categories, including points per game at 40.6. That ranks them 6th nationally. They average 447 yards total offense a game, 5.9 yards per play. And although they needed overtime to get there against Louisville and the defensive touchdowns last week, they have scored 30 points or more in each of their 6 games this season. They are off their most statistically inferior performance of the season against Louisville. And of course, the Cardinals do have a good defense, but I think, and I don't have it down in my notes, but I think they gained about 232 yards. So less than 250 yards, not a real outstanding offensive performance by the Cavaliers, but I think they're going to get back on track here against Washington State. This is a Washington State team coming off their most impressive overall performance and defensive performance of the season. Last week went to Ole Miss, lost that game 24-21, had the Rebels on the ropes for sure. There's little to suggest, though, that the Cougars are going to be able to slow down Virginia's offensive machine, in my opinion. Look at a couple of games back in September. Washington State gave up 59 points, not only in one game, but in back-to-back games against North Texas and Washington. They allowed an average of 7.7 yards per play. But something else that enters into my handicap is Washington's propensity for turnovers. Against North Texas, they committed 5 turnovers. They committed 3 turnovers against Washington. So those turnovers certainly contributed to both those teams' 59-point output against the Cougars. You look at that North Texas game, if you look at the play-by-play, really interesting. I love combing through that the play-by-play sheets and finding information. North Texas, off 4 of those turnovers, they had 4 touchdown drives of 20 yards or less, and those were all in the first half. So when you have a short field like that, that certainly contributes to the opposition's ability to score. And might Virginia get at least one of those type of situations on Saturday in Virginia? But I think they're busting 40 here against Washington State. I like Virginia's team total over 36.5 Saturday in Charlottesville.
You talk about the pace of play, which is important when you're looking at totals, whether it's team totals or for the game as well. Paul mentioned that how many snaps per game. Of 136 Division I teams, that ranks number 10 for the Virginia Cavaliers. So way, way up there as far as pace of play. We'll end up with one of my picks, and we'll go to the SEC. How about these schedules, huh? And it started last week. Yeah, South Carolina went to Baton Rouge and lost 20-10 to LSU. They host Oklahoma. Next week, they'll host Alabama, and then they'll travel to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Oklahoma is played in Dallas, neutral site against Texas. They go to Columbia to play South Carolina, host Ole Miss, and then go to Knoxville to play Tennessee. Welcome to the life of the SEC. That's why schedule, when we did our SEC preview as far as the win totals, I took both of these teams to go under the total. The big story here is John Mateer. And you talked about it last week, Paul, and he still played, but he was not effective. And you just wonder, and it's a big drop-off from him to the backup quarterback. I'm not so sure that Oklahoma would have been in better shape with the backup quarterback as much as he is, not even close to a healthy Mateer. But the big thing here is Venables saying some crazy, whiny stuff after this loss to Texas. Did he set back Mateer in his recovery by having him play? Because he got hit, and so that's the big thing. So where is he's going to try and play again? He's not going to be 100%. Exactly what percentage he is, not sure. South Carolina at home with Lenora Sellers, who had a rough day throwing. Look, LSU's coverage skills are really, really tough. Those guys are the number 4 Delane is going to be a first-round pick. There's no doubt. They got a lot of good players. They got a very good defense, period. But South Carolina catching points at home, to me, this is a pick-em type of game. Man, toss-up game. Give me the 5.5 and the Gamecocks at home against Oklahoma. And, man, they're getting it. Where Venables has a gripe is, okay, this 2-year Band-Aid schedule, how do we get this and Texas gets that? So that's the thing he should have been whining about when it first came out. But anyway, talking about his lack of resources compared to Texas. Come on, man. You're Oklahoma. You got a lot of resources yourself as well. So anyway, feeling the heat a little bit, but I'm taking South Carolina plus these points. Money line alert for me with the Gamecocks here at home against Oklahoma, Paul.
I think 5.5, Jimmy, might not sound like a whole lot of points to a novice observer, but, I think points going to be at a premium on Saturday in Columbia. Against Texas, you mentioned John Mateer, Oklahoma's quarterback. He returned just 17 days after right-hand surgery, his throwing hand, 17 days previous in Los Angeles. And he didn't make excuses after the defeat to Texas. And no question about it, Texas's defense, which really, against Ohio State, they played well, but really hadn't shown what many expected it would, this point in the season. They came to life Saturday in the Red River rivalry. They were all over the place. They were disruptive, playing very physical football. It was a tough assignment, but it had to affect his performance. I mean, you have a right hand like that. Some of the throws he made were really off, and he's maybe he's more of a runner than a passer. He's not a bad passer, but I think he was off his game. I think that hand affected his performance. So it begs the question in my mind, will it affect his performance again on Saturday at South Carolina? I just can't imagine he's going to be 100%. And you hope, you like to see everybody healthy for these teams. And Oklahoma is a team still in the thick of the playoff chase. And you hope that this doesn't, as you suggested, prolong his recovery where he's never at 100% the rest of the year, and he's just playing at something less than full tilt. I hope that's not the case. I only made Oklahoma -3 because I think points are going to be at a premium. Two good defenses. I'm a little concerned about South Carolina's offense because it is so heavily reliant on their very talented quarterback, Lenore Sellers. They really just don't have any other weapons. But for me, it'd be South Carolina or nothing, because 5.5 is pretty good, chunk of points when you're talking about a game in which the winner might not score, but maybe 20 or 21 points. So, this is South Carolina's opportunity to get kind of a signature win and maybe get things in good shape for the second half of the year.
Oh, you've been to those games, and look, those two teams were ready to play. They were popping, man. They were popping their pads. And listen, that was two really good defense. Give Arch Manning some credit. Everybody rushes to judgment. And listen, he was so hyped, and it was just ridiculous. Okay, he's still 7, 8 starts in, but he played some tough, and he got some tough. Those yards were tough in Dallas last week, man, and that's part of it too, man. That was even in a loss. That was a lot of emotion, a lot of focus, a lot of intensity. And so, even though it's not a win, a little bit of a letdown spot here going to South Carolina. So, I like the spot a lot. Yes, the Sellers has to do a lot by himself, but he's much more comfortable as a passer at home. Each and every Tuesday and Thursday, Paul and I look at the college games, do the high profile, the high volume games, the ranked matchups on Tuesday, and then we give our best bets, any picks on the board that we like on a Thursday. Picks, angles, analysis, information. So we'll see you on Tuesday. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott here on the College Sports Rush YouTube channel, brought to you by Bet Rivers.